afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am Ryan. I am the landowner and working on preserving the natural habitat in the Halton Niagara Escarpment area, and happy to be preserving the ecosystem.
And what inspired you to renaturalize your property?
It was a little bit of an accident. So 3 years ago, my wife and family and I all moved into a nice property just over a couple acres in the Ancaster area. And it was poorly maintained property. They had a lot of fencing, and I'm assuming lots of things were brought in, like English ivy, a very manicured, probably in the 80s or 90s property. And we were trying to update it with today's standards, with being in an area where the escarpment is in play, the conservation may be in play because we have a waterway going through the property, and the city of Hamilton being also incorporated. I started doing my research and figured out quite quickly that the property that we had purchased had a lot of things that wouldn't have naturally been here. A lot of things were brought in from other countries. They would have perhaps looked very nice and what the previous homeowner would like, but had really got overgrown and started taking over the property. So as my wife and I learned more, we got very excited in removing some of those more invasive species and trying to bring it all the way back to what we would have found natively here, and encourage more wildlife, rejuvenate the ecosystem here. So quite by accident, but we're happy we're here.
And how did you get involved with the Hamilton Conservation Authority?
Again, quite by accident. I reached out to the Conservation Authority, assuming that I wanted to put up a lot more structures, like outbuilding shed, change the waterway, put in a prettier bridge. But through that process, I ended up learning so much about the mandate of the Conservation Authority and how they could help me bring back the property, that the dreams of having a very manicured, modernized property kind of faded away as I learned of bringing back the native species of trees and different things that we could do to protect the waterways in that, versus manicuring it more for our style. So I have really appreciated working with the Conservation Authority.
And what sort of work have you and the Conservation Authority done on your property so far?
Great question. So it feels like we've done a ton. When we look back at it, there's still a lot more things we'd like to do. So it's a great kind of journey that we're currently going through. So again, it's a couple acres property, so there's a lot of land here. It has a stream running through it, lots and lots of trees, and lots of education to get to figuring out what should be removed and what should be added. So far, I would say the big projects that we have taken on is rejuvenation of the waterway. So there was a number of invasive species that had overtaken our waterway, and we did not have a large bank. So erosion was starting to become a problem for us. So rejuvenation there included removing a lot of those invasive species, removing a lot of garbage, for lack of a better term, the cinder blocks and brick that was thrown in there to try and preserve the bank by previous owners, and taking out some of the culverts and things from historically what would have been used, and going updating to what today's standards would be. Additionally to that, we've planted a number of trees, removed a number of the invasive trees, and removed some of the dead wood that was impeding new growth from coming up. So we kind of taken on a few projects, but again, many more are on the list of things we'd like to do.
And what are some of the ones you would like to do?
Say it's a never-ending list. So we're looking at a very large property, but again, 2 acres. Cutting grass for myself takes about an hour and a half on a riding lawnmower, so that is a lot of grass. In the grand scheme of things, I would really like to take some of the area that is currently covered in grass and renaturalize it to being a forested area. So I don't even want to guess at how many trees we'll want to plant there, but it will also be adding a number of expanding the waterway buffer zone, with adding some more dogwood, adding some more pussy willow, to make sure that we really have a good, secure waterway well into the future.
And why are we doing this? Why are we putting in so much effort to renaturalize your property?
Again, after I started the conversations off with the escarpment and the Conservation Authority, I didn't quite understand how much the world looked different than perhaps it would have naturally looked on its own. And it got me really excited talking to those different experts of what I as an individual can do to help preserve and bring back the native species to the world. Very rarely in life do we have the opportunity to make as many changes as I feel that myself and my family can do on this one that'll have an impact on the rest of the world by having more trees, more ecosystem that looks much more natural than it did when I purchased the property. So I was really quite inspired by working with the organizations and understanding what their role was, but also how I can contribute to that mandate.
And what changes have you already seen with the work you've already completed on your property?
I have to admit, I'm actually a little surprised how much things have changed in such a little amount of time. So we purchased the property about 3 years ago. The previous owner had gotten a little bit older. The property was very, very overgrown, and their version of a very manicured lawn had fences around the entire 2 acres of the property. Kept a lot of nature out, for lack of a better term. So when we moved in, it was a little strange that we didn't see a lot of birds, we didn't see a lot of butterflies. There wasn't actually a lot of natural interaction happening. But as we removed some of those fences, we've updated that stream and changed out some of the invasive species to be native species. I'm quite excited that this year I heard frogs in the stream area for the first time since I moved here 3 years ago. I've seen many, many butterflies in some of the native bushes that we've added here. The birds are fantastic now. Going from the 1 or 2 perhaps birds that are more common in Hamilton, I now can say this summer I've seen over a dozen different birds, which is very, very exciting. And now with the fences removed, we're now seeing things like many more squirrels and possums and skunks and raccoons and deer passing through the property. So we're not impeding anything crossing through from the Bruce Trail to the other areas of the forest, which is very exciting for us.
And what advice would you give other landowners who might want to bring more nature to their property?
Don't be afraid to reach out to the resources that the province, the federal government, the city in your local area have. Other experts in your area, whether it's a naturalist club. Online there's so many great groups together. I cannot list all what I perceive silly questions that I ask experts, which aren't that silly looking back at them, but I feel silly asking them to get their insights so that I can learn what type of tree that is it native, should I be removing those. I've had so many meaningfully good conversations that I say, as long as you're not afraid to ask experts for the questions that you have, you'll go very, very far. I want to say, even this weekend, it's fall here, and white pine. I have some newer white pine that are about 8 feet high. Have very brown pine needles in the fall, which apparently, as the dead pine needles fall away, not uncommon in the fall period. But when I walked out to see some of these trees I planted 4 or 5 months ago, and I've been watering every single week, religiously trying to make sure that they have the best start to growing here as possible. I was frantically texting the gentleman that I was working with planting these trees on from the tree farm there, going, "Oh my God, I watered them for the last 12 weeks and now they've started to die. What do I do?" I sent him a picture and he just chuckled at me and goes, "Ryan, you're fine. The trees looked great 2 weeks ago when you sent me a picture. They'll do this, and next year they'll do it a little bit less, and when they get bigger, you'll see this even less." It's just natural for this type of tree to do that. So I felt a little silly asking the question, but I'm super glad that I feel comfortable and confident that I can now pass that information along to others from my learnings.
Thank you for giving all those tips, Ryan. It's true. There's so many great resources all around us, and Hamilton has so many resources that you're able to contact. You just have to look a little bit. I was wondering if you could share a fun nature story with us.
I'm not sure that it's super fun, but it is really inspiring. I have to say, The area that we live in is in the spring, kind of as the new growth is coming out. It's beautiful to walk around the neighborhood. So we have walkers going up and down the streets. And in the fall, similarly, when the leaves are changing, lots and lots of families and couples walk around the Bruce Trail and go by our property, which is always an exciting time of year. And the funny kind of anecdote that, or at least I find it quite fun to think about, is every few months there's inevitably a family that is coming to the area for their walk, sort of deal. They're enjoying nature. I don't know if they come from a different country where they don't have quite the nature that we do here, or if they're perhaps just living in a very urban center, but they're out enjoying the nature, and inevitably they'll see a deer family at the stream, and I'll be walking the dog or just doing something in the neighborhood, and they'll stop me and they'll go, "Hey, did you know if you go right up there about 100 feet, you can go look at the pond, and there's a deer family drinking from the stream." It was beautiful. And I kind of smirk, and again, partly why I like preserving the property that we have here is I often sometimes forget about how special it is to see nature the way I get to experience more, and my family gets to experience more often. But really preserving that for others to enjoy always makes me smile, because again, we see deer, or we see what is not the nature around us all the time, and I don't think we always take it for, or perhaps we take it for granted. And those families always bring me back to going, it is super special to be in the presence of nature and have that family memory, and go back to that. So I always love when some family stops me and tells me about a special moment, advising me that I should go witness the special moment as well.